Good afternoon. I'll give it just a couple moments for people to start coming in. And what I will do is go in and hello, hello, welcome, welcome. I see people starting to come in. I'm going to enable the Q&A as we're getting started. So the Q&A is enabled now. So feel free to use the chat if you have questions along the way, or if you want to be anonymous, you can use the Q&A, and that way you can ask whatever question you want without necessarily anybody knowing that it's you asking that question. And I want to, before we get started, tell you a little bit about me. I'm sure there was a bio there, but that doesn't always get seen. So I will tell you a little bit about me, my connection to JT, who I just think the world of, and um, and then I'll get into the program. And as we get started, would you mind dropping in the chat? Are you currently in a role thinking about pivoting, or are you looking for the next role? And if you are, what is that role? As we go through this. So let me just take a look and open up my chat. All right, well then let's get underway. Um, my name is Victor Simmons, and I'm a long time HR guy. I've been in the hotel business for a long time. Started out in operations. Um, oh, wait a minute. I see a chat coming in. Let me see what this is. Okay, Adriana, you're the only one, and you are looking for a role. You were laid off a week ago. Okay, Adriana, I've been laid off a couple of times, so listen, you just ask away as many questions as you can. I know what it is like. I'm just not going to make any bones about it. It's not fun out there. So you just ask as many questions as you want. What role are you? Um, sorry, not a year ago. Oh, okay, all right. Well, okay, Audra. Oh no, I see other people dropping in. So please, as you're joining, let us know. I'm curious to know what role you're interested in, you're looking for, and then ask. Feel free to ask questions along the way, or you can use the Q&A as well if you want to remain anonymous. So let's get started. I want to tell you a little bit about me, a little bit about the connection with JT, and I will go over my piece here in terms of how to stay relevant and competitive in a rapidly changing workplace. That's why we are here today. But telling you a little bit about me, I'm a hotel exec. I grew up in this business, went to school for it. I started in operations initially, and then I moved into human resources. I've been doing human resources for almost 26 years. And I also handle those three scary letters: DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion, and work for major global brands. Most recently, I was the VP of HR and the head of DEI up until October of 24, when my role and 11 others were laid off. And I opened up Victorious Endeavors, where I help people and organizations lead with presence, not through title, so that everybody wins. And the connection with JT and I, yes, I'm a pro voicer, but I have been following JT since 2011. And she was maybe just a few, she was a corporate exec, and then she started her own business around 2008. I came along in 2011, and I was doing HR consulting. I'd been in hotels, did HR consulting, and I saw some, she puts a lot of free content out there, and what she said really resonated. I knew what I needed to do because I had been in HR. I knew what I needed to do to get back into a hotel. And I just really appreciated what she was saying. And I always stayed in touch with her. We actually collaborated back around 2013 or so. And then in 2020, I was working for Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. And during the pandemic, and my role was eliminated. And part of my package with Wyndham, I got a career coach as part of my package, but I use that coach. I'm a big believer in working with coaches. I think that if you look at the best, you pick any sport, whoever the best player is, they have a coach, not just their head coach. They have a coach. And so I'm a big believer in that. And so I had my coach from Wyndham for my package, but I went to JT and I worked with JT, and that helped me get into my role as the VP of HR and the head of DEI. And now, on this go round, I'm working with her as a pro voicer, and I work on all things related to HR, workplace culture in that space. So a little bit about me, the connection to JT. And I want to start with this. The workplace is evolving faster than any other point in our careers, right? And there's new technology, there's new expectations, there's new skill demands. And what I'm seeing across industries is this quiet and, quite frankly, sometimes loud anxiety that people don't always talk about. They don't name it, but I will. It's people, and I did this. I asked myself, in 2024, am I still relevant? And so it's that's the question of the day, right? Am I still relevant? And not just in my role today, but what is coming next? Because everything is just coming fast and furious these days, right? And here's the truth I want to ground you in today. Staying competitive today isn't about knowing everything. For me, it never, as an HR practitioner in California, you know how many laws there are on the books, employment laws on the books in California? It's wild. Let me tell you. And I didn't know all those books, all those laws that were on the books, right? But I made sure that in order for me to be competitive in my field, I was always learning. I was always learning. It's about learning faster than the environment is changing. There's new laws coming on the books every year when I was in California. So, insight number one for you. What qualified means, that has shifted. For a long time, qualified meant experience, tenure, and technical expertise. And those still matter. They do still matter, but they're no longer enough. Today, employers are scanning for something different. They want to know, can you adapt when the rules change? They want to know, can you learn without being told? And can you translate what you learned, what you know, into new contexts? The landscape is changing rapidly. And the most valuable professionals right now aren't the most experienced. I believe I was very successful. I wasn't always the most experienced, but you could not outwork me. You could not outlearn me. Right? I was always studying. And I was very adaptive. And that's, I think, what made me a successful HR practitioner is because, a lot of times HR folks get caught up in the black and white and can't work in the gray. And if you can't work in the gray as an executive, you're not adaptive, that doesn't help your company. Okay. Core insight number two. Across roles and industries, I see three skills that show up again and again. The first one is learning agility. Your ability to pick up new tools, processes, or ways of thinking quickly, that's paramount. So drop in the chat, what is the number one competency people are talking about learning right now? Because if you're not learning this, best believe you're going to be behind. I'll keep moving along, but I'm going to come back to the chat. I want to know, what is the number one competency people are talking about learning? Number two, Communication and clarity, not just speaking, but explaining, aligning, and helping others understand complex issues. Adriana's got it. That's right, AI. Got it. You got to be on top of that. That is not going away. And third, visibility with substance. People knowing what you do, how you think, and how you add value with clarity. And those three skills compound over time. They make career transitions smoother. And in doing so, opportunities will actually find you. You line up those three. Okay? Learning agility, communication and clarity, and visibility with substance. I've heard JC talk about visibility. Huge. Insight number 3. Here's the mindset shift that separates those who stay relevant from those who get stuck. Stop asking, what role do I want next? Don't do that. Start asking, what capabilities am I building right now? And an even better question is, are those capabilities the right ones for the future? Something that I use for personal development with teams that I work with is taking them through a SWOT analysis. In hospitality, you see that in the sales and marketing team, they'll take a hotel and run the hotel through a SWOT analysis. What are the hotel's strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? And what are the threats for that hotel? Usually when they're first starting out, they want to go through this exercise. Well, I do that in personal development. What are your strengths that you have? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? And what are your threats? So you can strengthen all of your, there are so many strengths that you have, right? But not all are the same. So the least strongest one you want to strengthen. Certainly weaknesses, right? You need to be able to mitigate as much of those as you can. And then you got to be a champ at understanding opportunities and leveraging those. And then you also have to do two things with threats. You cannot let threats scare you away from taking action. You just got to be good at looking for threats and then being prepared for the possibility of them. But don't let it bog you down into inaction. And if you do this mindset shift, you're doing that because roles are going to change. But the capabilities you gain will travel with you. I was just talking about this on LinkedIn earlier today. You want capabilities that you're gonna garner, something that travels with you, because the title is going to change, roles are going to change, but those capabilities will move with you. So focus on building transferable skills, learning, communication, adaptability, and you future-proof yourself no matter what the market does. Doesn't matter what happens. You future-proof yourself. So if there's one takeaway, it's this. Staying competitive isn't about chasing every trend. It's about being intentional about how you grow. I think about prompt engineering 2022 to 2024. Prompt engineering was a title people were chasing, but it quickly became just a baseline skill, not a career path. See what I mean? So be intentional about how you grow. That's what keeps you visible, in demand, and ready for what's next. So I'll pause here. Probably went more than 5 minutes. So let's talk about what you're seeing, what you're navigating, and where you want to focus next. What questions on what I've covered, or if there's something else you want to talk about, we can talk about that too. I'll check the Q&A and see if there's anything in there. I don't see anything there yet. And so while you're thinking about questions or typing your questions, I came up with, let me pull these up. I have a couple of I got 5 questions. We'll see how much time we have that I'll ask while you're thinking about your own or typing them in. I'll go through a couple of questions here. Let's see. If you don't have any questions, here's one back to you all. And some of these I'll answer myself, but here, let me ask you all this. What skill do you feel least confident about right now as your role evolves? What skill do you feel least confident about right now? And I'm going to move to the second one. I'll ask this one of you all, and then I'll answer it also. So, first, what skill do you feel least confident about right now? Somebody give me uh, that. Here's the second question. Where are you currently where are you currently learning? Formally or informally? Okay, Fahad answered. So I'll go back to that one. What skills do you feel least confident about? Communication skills. Yeah, well, and you'll recall what I was saying, right? And it's not the typical what we may have learned in school about active listening, right? That's sort of basic, right? It's being able to make sure that we're being clear and concise in our communication. And so, what I would say is LinkedIn Learning is a great tool that I've used often throughout the years. I've gone through it. I was just recently on there, probably 2 weeks ago, taking a class on AI, and let's see. I see, Adriana, you raised your hand too. I don't. Am I able to? Let me see. I don't think I can take you off mute though, can I? So, or were you just responding to my second question? Are you currently learning formally or informally? Fahad, back to your question on communication skills. I said LinkedIn Learning. One other thing I just thought of that I used a lot also when I was working on AI. I took a couple of certifications just going online, but then I started working with an AI avatar, and where I sort of boned up on that was just YouTube University. So I ended up using a particular platform who did happen to have resources in there, but I didn't realize that because I hadn't downloaded the platform yet. But I knew I wanted to use an AI avatar, so I did a lot of studying on YouTube first. Then I picked up this one particular platform, and then in that platform they had a library of resources as well. I'm just going to check the Q&A and see if there's anything. Nothing there. All right, we got about 12 minutes. I'm going to move to the next question. I would be curious to know um, what you might have an answer to this one. What's changing fastest in your industry that people aren't fully talking about yet? And what does that sound like when I ask that question? What's changing fastest in your industry that people aren't fully talking about yet? And to me, when I read that, that sounds like that could be an opportunity. So I know in my field in HR, yes, everybody's talking about AI, and AI for me is the opportunity that I see with AI is everybody is rushing to understand AI and use AI, but are we looking at it through a people centric lens? And what are the things that I need to do as an HR leader for organization I'm working with to make sure that the folks that don't have it are being skilled up on it? And what parts of AI should they actually be learning so that they stay ahead of the curve? Because AI is not, yes, it is going to take away in hotels, as an example. It's a people first business, right? So it's still going to be customer, but there are things like revenue management. There are things in terms of analyzing customer experience feedback that could be done by AI so that the teams can focus on higher value customer experience, right? So we need to train those teams on how to figure those things out so that they can spend more time on higher value customer experience. Adriana says, learning formally. I went through 2 college micro certifications, great change management and AI for digital marketing and communications. Awesome. Very good. Love to hear that. We gotta skill up, gotta stay ahead of the curve. Let's see. What I got another question for you. Let's see. What was this one? When was the last time you intentionally built a skill outside your job description? I'd be curious to hear what you have to say about that. When was the last time you intentionally built a skill outside of your job description? Let me think of a time that I have done that. Um, I've gotten both of my I got a couple of certifications in HR. I got my certification in DEI. Well, one time outside of mine, I did one that was in and one was outside. When years and years ago, I got my personal training to be a personal trainer. I got that as a certification because I wanted to have better health and fitness. I was an athlete, but then after years of not being an athlete, I started putting on a lot of weight, and I decided to become a personal trainer. Um, and I also did some coaching, although getting a certification in coaching early on. But I felt like that was something that would help me as an HR director. Timothy, I missed your comment here, so I see that you put in the chat as I requested what you're doing. So looking for a senior role in HR. Love my fellow HR folks. Focus mostly on rewards, HR ops, etc. Great. Have worked in legal, financial, retail, restaurant, healthcare. So that's great. When you have been in multiple industries, I've always been appreciative of that because mine has all been hospitality, and as you heard me talk about being able to be ready for the future, I've always felt like I was sort of pigeonholed in hospitality and that maybe I should branch out. But I was always reluctant to do that because I knew hospitality in and out and wanted to be there. Tried to do maybe parallel industries. And now I'm finally, as a consultant, I have now started working with organizations outside of hospitality. I'm working with a marketing firm about a month ago, which was a blast, completely a blast. Because Timothy, I know you know this, right? HR, HR, the tenets of HR are the same no matter what industry, right? There are certain things that are very distinctive to your industry, but in terms of the tenets of HR, it doesn't matter, what industry you're in. All right, let's see. Okay, I have a question here. What guidance would you give to someone aiming to grow from a technical role into a management position without prior people management experience? Terrific, terrific question. What I would say, this has been the same, I've been saying this for years, is find leadership opportunities where you can. Typically, where I have continued to do that is in associations. So whatever field you're in, make sure that you are in an association for that field, and don't just be a member of that association, be an active member where you are leading the membership committee, you're leading the finance committee, the marketing committee, the whatever it is. Get in leadership positions through your association for your field, because you'll be seen doing work in your field and you'll be seen as a leader. I would do that. I would take leadership courses. I would do that as well on LinkedIn Learning or wherever you find them. Um, and it doesn't have to be, I would say, in associations in your field, but also you could do that in other things uh, if you're still able to correlate the leadership skill that you're doing into that. So it could be through a religious organization, it could be through a volunteer um, organization where you're leading a group of volunteers in that, whatever that volunteer situation is. Anything that's leadership driven where you can speak in an interview and say, well, I had a team of 5 people on my volunteer organization, and this is how we ended up working through this situation. We had this problem, and you can relate that to a problem in your industry, and you could show how you solve that problem through your volunteer organization, your religious organization, your association. Great question. Um, Let me know if that helps or if you have a follow up. I'm going to toggle back over to the chat, see if there's anything. All right, well, we got 4 minutes for you to write anything else down. Let me ask the last question I have here for you all. What would staying relevant look like for you over the next 12 months? I would love to hear if you've been thinking about that and what your thoughts are. What would staying relevant look like for you over the next 12 months? I'll answer that for myself. Let me see. I think I alluded to it, is I took 2 certifications on AI, one that was business related, one that was career related. And then I took a class on LinkedIn Learning on AI on the latest tools that are coming out where you can you no longer have to be like, you can build your own website. You don't have to go to a web developer. You can build your own website. You can have AI agents that take your body of knowledge and create tools for clients that you have. And I wanted to learn more about that. And so I took an online course around that. And then over the holiday, as I mentioned, I was using this Victor AI, my avatar, because I wanted to take time off for the holidays, but I still wanted content to go out. So if you look me up on LinkedIn, you'll see during that time period. Prior to that, you'll see a bunch of videos of me, and then you'll see my avatar doing those very similar content over the holiday, because I think that's where we're going, the direction we're going, and I wanted to make sure I understood how that worked. So I think for me, staying relevant in my field is understanding where AI's place is in the HR world. And I think that's a perfect example of telling your teams, because they just work, particularly in hospitality, you just work to the bone. And is there a way that you can use AI to do the work for you while you can rest and revitalize? Because again, in hospitality, you still got to touch, there are still heavy guest touch points that are people to people. There are, in our industry, there are folks that just want to come in, they don't want to see anybody, don't want to talk to anybody, will use their phone to check in now, will use their phone to get entry into a room. And that is happening, that is the future, and happening right now. But there are still people that want to go down in the lobby and have a server that they can talk to and ask questions about the city and ask questions about the art and the culture and the cuisine and be around people. And so that's never going to change. But how we enhance the experience and how we can make leaders stronger leaders, I think AI is going to do it. So that's how I'm staying relevant. 1 minute left. Any other questions that you have? I'm going to toggle back over to the Q&A or the chat. I don't see any other questions, but I will give you got about 15 seconds if you want to get something else in. Otherwise, I will say, as we are closing, it was great to have you all on here today. Thanks for showing up, and drop something in the chat on Work It Daily. to say what you thought about it. Give feedback as a gift. I'd love to get feedback on how I was doing. And I'm going to wish you all a happy new year and wish you all the best. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Take care.